Good afternoon, everyone, to Session Spotlight. We have 5 more classes to talk about today. We're going to be with Mary Berry, Jennie Hawkey, Kathy Monaghan, Robyn Spady, and Jannie Taylor. They're all going to be teaching at Convergence this summer, 2024 in Wichita, Kansas. It's the International Fiber Art Conference. It's July the 11th through the 17th. We'll have a variety of activities and classes. We've got marketplace, exhibits, fashion show, keynote, tours, and much, much more. Today, we're going to start with Mary Berry, Spinning 201, Spin Better. This is a 3-hour seminar. It's Friday afternoon, July 12th. Hello, Mary.
Hello, Kathy. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here and glad to be able to talk about my class because I have got something for every level of spinner in this class. You'll notice I'm bringing the fiber, and that doesn't mean I'm just going to bring one thing. I'm going to bring lots of different fibers so we can talk about drafting styles. The other thing I'm going to do is talk about how to adjust your wheel to make the wheel spin the yarn that you want. And I am a big time spinner. I spin a lot every day, and I use my hand spun yarn not only in weaving, but in other ways as well. Let me find my share screen button. Oops, let's see. Let's bring this up. Oh, come on. There we go. So one of the things, I am an artist, and one of the things I use my hand spun yarn for is in my rug hooking art. This is an example of, if you look at the lavender, that is a wool boucle, not a mohair boucle, and they do look different. This is another small rug hooked piece, and you can see it's got hand spun yarn with beads. The red is hand spun mohair. There's things with sequins, just all different kinds of hand spun yarn representing the flowers in this piece. And one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that you can spin very different yarn on the same wheel, and it's all about how you adjust your wheel, how you adjust your drafting. You don't have to adjust yourself, and that's the point. So you can see this is something I'm working on right now. This piece is quite skinny. It's very skinny for me because I'm usually not what I call a skinny spinner. This piece is a little thicker. It's the same fiber, and I drafted it a little differently. I set my wheel a little differently, so I got a thicker yarn. And when I apply the two of them together, I'm going to get a very special kind of yarn called a ratine, R-A-T-I-N-E, with an accent mark on the E, a ratine yarn. And you can look that up in the dictionary. It's all about spinning a skinny yarn around a fatter yarn. I also spin this sort of yarn, and with various things spun in with your yarn. And this is the same wheel that I spun the skinny yarn on. And this sort of yarn. Now, for this sort of yarn, yes, you're going to have to invest in a jumbo flyer, jumbo bobbin, and you're going to need a flyer with sliding hooks, or sliding loops, I should say, instead of a hooked flyer, because this would get all caught up in a hooked flyer. But that's something that every wheel manufacturer makes, just a little add-on to your current wheel. Here's another example. I want you to focus on this one first. Notice that this one has little beads in it. But when I buy fiber, I always buy 8 ounces, so I have plenty. So the one with the beads in it will be a great companion to the ones that doesn't have beads in it. I will likely weave a shawl or put this in a shawl, and I will use the beaded yarn for the beginning and the end to add a little heft to the bottom of the shawl. There's a close-up of the beads again. And then there's just fun things you can do. Remember all that art yarn that we all bought back in the day for knitting. Well, I went down in my art yarn stash and found an interesting way to use it for plying. So these are all different ideas that that you can learn about in this class. If you know how to adjust what you're doing, you can get lots of different effects from the same wheel. So I guess that's bring your wheel, bring a working wheel, bring your jumbo bobbin if you have it. We also play Stump the Teacher in this class. So if you have some fiber that you'd like an opinion on how to spin, be sure and bring it. But I think it's going to be a great class for every level of spinner. What do you think, Kathy?
Stump the Teacher, huh?
Yes, Stump the
That
Teacher.
would be worth going just for that, Mary.
Bring something you picked up, at a garage sale or whatever, and let's see what we can do with it.
Okay, I'm a non-spinner, but I'm going to ask this anyway. Now, this is for an intermediate, so y'all probably know this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Now, you're saying don't bring an e-spinner. Is that because of the size of the material you're going to work with?
No, it's not. Most of the class is about how to change the settings on a treadle wheel.
Okay.
If you have an e-spinner and you're willing to listen to the part about the treadle wheel, and then I'll sidle up to you and tell you what that means on your electric wheel, then bring it. But it's really all about treadle wheels and treadling and adjusting a treadle wheel.
Well, this is wonderful, but keep in mind, this is 201. So this is for y'all who I know how to spin, but it's time to go to the next level. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Mary. We appreciate it. Spinning 201, Spin Better, 3-hour seminar. It's Friday afternoon, July the 12th. Next up, we got Jennie Hawkey. The art and craft of teaching weaving. Oh, this is a great topic, Jennie. I've been teaching beginning weaving, and I would love to take this class. It's a 90-minute seminar, and it's Sunday morning, July the 12th.
Well, I am very excited to teach it. I've talked to many weavers that say they would love to teach. And I am actually a teacher by trade. I've taught all my life in different schools and different kids. And then when I retired, I moved over to teaching weaving, and I've taught for about 10 years. And so I just wanted to give people some practical ideas about teaching so that they would feel that they could get started. I established a business, which you don't have to do. My business is called Hopewell Weaving, and I run my teaching through that. But I've tried lots of ideas. When I first started, my idea was to buy about 10 portable looms, like a small Harrisville kind of loom, and develop a looms to go where I could take my looms places in a trailer and teach people that don't have looms to weave. And that I've done some of that. But I also teach at home and different places, and I'm going to talk about that. When I teach the class, I'm going to give specifics about what products I use and how I use them. So one of the things people want to know is, what should I teach? And of course, you want to teach something that you have some knowledge about. Warping is a basic class that most people need, but warping really often turns people off of weaving. They worry about it. And so often I try to add a fun either weave or project in with warping. So it might be that we teach twill, and that part of the class is getting your loom warped, and then we are able to weave with the twill, or many of those other ones that you see. One of my favorites is overshot, and yes, beginners and people learning to warp can do overshot. And another thing I try to do then is have project classes. So one of the classes I often teach is weave a scarf in a weekend, which you can easily do. And we have a lot of fun doing that. So that is one of the first things. What am I going to teach? sometimes people want to know, do they really need a lesson plan? That seems very daunting to some folks. But boy, if you don't have a plan, it's just like not having a map and trying to get somewhere. It surely helps, and it makes you feel better as a teacher to be organized. So I'll talk about lesson plans and what you should include and what you don't need to necessarily include. And also handouts for students are so important. How do you get and keep students? I just have had an amazing amount of wonderful students from all over. I teach both online and in person. And so I not only have students from the United States, but sometimes I have international students in my classes. But how do you get a hold of them? There's not a lot of weavers per square mile. So you need to be able to find them and then communicate your classes with them. How do you get known and for your teaching, and how do you get noticed? I'm going to talk about setting up a good email system, setting up a website and maintaining it, which I had help setting up my website, but I maintain it myself. Well, I do have one consultant, that's my daughter, who helped me set it up, but I'm able to put my classes on and handle all my orders and etc. How to use social media and how to plan events for weaving or to participate in them. I teach in person and started out that way. I'm lucky enough to have an extra building where I live, but you can teach in your living room, or you can teach at the local school, or, there's lots of ways to teach in person. And lots of us have associations with places that maybe we could teach, maybe our local park district or something. I also have a weaving retreat that I do every year, and that's been very popular and very wonderful. We have a little town near us, I'm in Illinois, called Bishop Hill, and they're full of old buildings, and they have a schoolhouse, and that's where I teach that. And I have people come every year to the same class, and we get to know each other really well, and we spend the weekend learning weaving. And then with the pandemic, I had already started to teach online a little bit, or at least developed a class, and I was able to switch some of my teaching to online. So now in the winters here in Illinois, it's kind of hard to get to my house. I live up a big hill in the snow, but I can teach classes online. And when I first started, I taught free classes for warping, and then I got the confidence to do more teaching online. And so I'll talk about how I did that, what tools I've used for that, and how I made that conversion. Marketing is huge. Having a logo, having business cards. Again, I can teach, or I can talk about specifics about how you can set that up for yourself. And then that just a little bit of final for me. So I live in a lovely place in Illinois out in the woods, and love to be there with students, and we just relax and have a good time weaving. My idea is to be as positive as I can with folks, and I love teaching beginners and seeing the progress that they make.
Well,
So
Jennie, this sounds perfect for anybody who wants to teach.
I am very excited about doing this.
Thank you so much. Jennie Hawkey, The Art and Craft of Teaching Weaving. It's a 90-minute seminar. It's Sunday morning, July the 14th. Thanks, Jennie.
You're welcome.
Next up, Kathy Monaghan, Teaching Young Weavers Toolkit. This is a 3-hour seminar. It's Friday afternoon, July the 12th. Hey, Kathy.
Hey there. I'm so happy to see you all. And I loved hearing what Jennie just had to say, because I am also a passionate teacher. And I think what she just said is of building the next generation of weavers is important for all of us. So let me just jump into my info for you. As you said, these are the times and the dates for this workshop, 3 hours. What I'm going to be doing is really taking it one step younger for new weavers. So my background is I've been teaching weaving for more than 30 years. And when I was teaching in public school, I was an elementary art specialist. I taught all kinds of things, from clay to painting, drawing, and then I'd pull in what my own passion, which was weaving, and I'd get kind of mediocre results, and I was very disappointed. and I thought, well, I guess my students are too young. They were 4 through 6 generally. And then I kind of abandoned textile projects in my class because it wasn't as successful as I wanted it to be. And I was reading an article actually in Handwoven about a traditional culture, weaving culture. And they did say that, you know, young kids were not expected to weave well until they were about 4 or 5 years old. So it's like, whoa, my students are much older. What's wrong? What am I missing? And it really made me focus on building skills, because what I realized is that we might be using crayons, we might be using pencils, but the students I had were building on some experience. They knew that when they turned the crayon sideways, it was wider. They pressed harder on a pencil, it got darker. And so I was actually building on the skills that they had when I was teaching them a drawing project. So what was missing from their understanding, because they might not have ever seen or handled yarn. So what that became was a series of lessons that became a book, You Can Weave, by Davis Publications, which is a art curriculum publisher. And those lessons actually changed everything for my students. And so it's a set of lessons that fills in all the gaps. So who's this for? If you're a teacher, you're a homeschool parent, so I have partners in there, homeschool parents, beginning weavers. If you're the young weaver, and when I say young, I don't necessarily mean age. How long have you been weaving? But parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, all those, but anyone interested in building the next generation of hand weavers, which should be all of us, because we really need to make sure that our craft continues. What we'll cover. So this is hands-on experience with paper weaving, straw weaving, cardboard looms, backstrap, and frame looms. You're going to leave with a complete toolkit and samples for teaching young weavers the basics. We're going to be talking about how to make looms from simple materials. I was a public school teacher. We had zero budget. And so what can you make from very little? How do you make sure your students are going to succeed without having a giant studio that you could draw on? Also, material handling tips. It's I want you to learn from all my mistakes of how to handle yarn with a class of anywhere from 5 to 30 people. And then classroom management tips. How do you move people around, make sure that they're able to see and hear, and succeed. So one of the other things that we'll talk about is how do you evaluate what your students have done? What do you stress for them to do that will make the difference between a mediocre project and a real successful? And then what do you need to bring? Bring a notebook, paper, your favorite writing tool. I don't know about you, but I have a lot of obsession about pens and pencils. So bring what you love to work with, and I'm going to provide everything else. I personally love to go to a class where I have a wonderful set of materials and I leave with everything that I need to succeed. So that's what we'll do in the class. Happy to answer any questions that you might have. There's one, can teachers get CEU credit for your class? You know, I have no idea. What would I need to do to make that happen?
You know what, Kathy, let's talk about that, because that might be a possibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that would be great. Yeah, because, you know, all of these things are completely applicable to any school teaching. What I'll also provide is content integration, because part of my textbook actually talked about integrating math, science, language arts, all of those things into these, because I worked really closely with the classroom teachers and we did integrated units. So there's obviously a lot of math. There's obviously a lot of cultural connections, but there's also science, all kinds of things. So anyway.
Well, let me throw my 2 cents worth in.
Mm-hmm.
My son had a learning disability and he couldn't read. And the teacher was like, pattern, 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 do patterns. So I taught him weaving because it's patterning.
Absolutely.
So it's great. I think this is a wonderful opportunity for people to bring this fiber experience into the classrooms. And we'll talk more about CEUs, okay?
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you, Kathy. Teaching Young Weavers Toolkit. It's a 3-hour seminar. It's Friday afternoon, July the 12th. Next up, Robyn Spady, Wicked Good Weaving, a 90-minute seminar. It is Sunday morning, July the 14th.
Thank you. Great to be here to talk a little bit about this 90-minute seminar. And I'm going to go out and share my screen so I can tell you a little bit more about what I'm going to be doing. Let me bring up my PowerPoint. I have just a few slides. In a moment, you're going to just see a blank white slide. And it's coming up. So what is this seminar? This is Wicked Good Weaving. It is a 90-minute seminar on Sunday morning, July 14th. And what do I mean by wicked good? Wicked good is really good. It's very good. And I was introduced to this term by a friend of mine who's from Boston. And one day she looked at me and she said, you know, that's wicked good. And I went, what? She goes, oh, that's like the best good in the world. And so for me, even though I'm not from Boston and I've used the term and people will ask me, oh, are you from Boston? Nope, but I love the term. And so when I was putting together proposals for Convergence, I ended up with some ideas that they just didn't warrant an entire class. So what I ended up doing is taking these wonderful weaves that are extremely versatile and creating what I think of as a tasting menu of these delectable weaves to sort of tickle your weaving taste buds. Again, it's only 90 minutes, so it's going to come in. It's going to be intense, but these are weaves with tremendous versatility, so you can use them for towels and scarves and table linens and yardage. And some of them are like, oh, I didn't know I could do that. The weaves I'm going to be doing do not overlap with any of the other classes that I'm teaching at Convergence. So if you're looking at some of the other things I'm teaching and say, well, gosh, I don't want it to overlap. No, these are all by themselves. These are things that I just thought, wow, this is great. Let me just create a tasting menu of some wonderful weaves to get people excited and inspired. So Wicked Good Weaving. The materials fee is $3. This is for the spiral bound handout that will have all of the drafts and other relevant information about each of the weaves in color. So you can come in, you don't have to worry about taking notes necessarily. You can just sit down, hang on for 90 minutes and try to find something that really gets you inspired. So keep calm and remember wicked is good. So that's Wicked Good Weaving, Sunday morning, July 14th from 9 a.m. to 10:30. What a great way to start your day.
Thank you, Robyn.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that. It's wonderful. Again, it's Wicked Good Weaving. It's 90-minute seminar, Sunday morning, July the 14th. Next up, Jannie Taylor, Playing with Blocks, a 90-minute seminar. It's Saturday afternoon, July the 13th. Hey, Jannie.
Hello. Hi. Good to see you. Good to see you again. All right. Well, I'm here to talk to you about my 90-minute seminar on block weaves. And block weaves are one of those things that for some people, it's just like an ongoing puzzle. And it's like, well, what exactly is this? And, you know, I'm going to really try my best in 90 minutes to just unravel that mystery for people and say, okay, what usually happens when people finally realize that block weaves are easier than they thought, and it's not as complicated as they thought, and they go, oh, that's all it is? So I'm hoping we're going to get some light bulb moments in this class. So let me go ahead and share my screen for a minute, and I'll give you a little rundown of what we're going to cover. Let me close that, and let me close that, and let me find my, I thought I had that up, but there it is. Okay, so, so this is on July the 13th, and this is in the afternoon. It's a 90-minute seminar, and so in 90 minutes, I'm really hoping I'll be able to answer that question for at least some people in the class. What are blocks, and why do I want to know about them? What is it? What's so powerful about this? What is this a topic that I keep hearing about, but I'm not quite sure what that is. Okay, so here is a 4-block overshot pattern, and the key to understanding about block weaves is that it allows you to weave pattern and background. Here we have a profile draft, and we're going to talk about the difference between profile drafting and regular drafting and how that works, how I can design in a profile and turn it into the structure that I want. This in this case, this has been turned into twill blocks. It could have been translated as a different weave structure. So this is the design, and this is what I've decided to weave it as. So we'll talk about all of those things and why it's such a powerful design tool. We're going to try, there are lots and lots of block weaves, lots of them. And it's like the super family of block weaves, but they have, you know, their cousins and uncles and what have you, different parts of the family. So we're going to talk about those groups, the unit weaves like summer and winter, or the non-unit weaves like overshot. And we're going to talk about how they're different, how they're the same. We're going to look at those two main subgroups. So again, half Bergman is a unit weave, non-unit crackle. Crackle is not a unit weave, but it's still block weave. So we're going to talk about and what we need to know to use those. The idea then going from a profile to a weaving draft, and what you need to know to be able to substitute various weave structures into that profile, and a suitable profile for a type of weave, so you can go back and forth. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff. Here are some of the non-unit block weaves that we're going to talk about. Spot Bronson, Monk's Belt, Overshot is, you know, one of our most popular ones, Crackle, Shadow Weave. These are things that you have to know more about to be able to use them from a profile. And then there are the wonderful, lovely unit weaves where you don't have to know much. You just need to plug them right into your profile. So we'll talk about a lot of these great unit weaves and how we can use them. And some of the unit weaves, looking at some of the unit weaves are weaves that we know what twill is. And I could just have twill. If I just had twill as a whole fabric, is it a unit weave? Is it a block weave? Well, I guess you would call it a single block, but you can take those basic structures and make them blocks by the way you use them. So we'll talk about that basic structure kinds of blocks, twill, satin. So here we have twill blocks from our little profile that we had, and so this is a 2-block design. So the little short runs of twill. If we were using satin blocks, if I wanted, this is 3 blocks of satin. This is going to take 15 shafts. So satin takes a lot of shafts. Twill not so much. So, and summer and winter not so much at all. So again, trying to design for your loom, trying to design for your equipment. What kinds of weaves can you design for? Which ones are probably, you'd have to go loom shopping if you wanted to do that. We'll also talk about double weave blocks. And double weave is even more complicated because double weave is not a structure, double weave is architecture. And so what I'm going to make in each one of those double weave blocks could be a different structure. In this case, we have plain weave, we have twill, we have basket weave, and so it can get more complex. We're also going to have a little exercise on profile drafting and block substitution and learning the difference between a profile draft and a regular threading draft and I think sometimes that's a little stumbling block for people. It's like they confuse the idea of a profile draft and a weaving draft, and we'll look at those. We'll also look at some easy design tools, ways of taking just simple 2-block profiles and making a variety of designs with only 2 blocks. And so if you have a 4-shaft loom, you could weave 2 blocks of summer and winter and do any number of these things. So we'll look at designing. I think profile drafting is all about designing. And so when you think about how you need to know a little bit about your weaving before you can start designing. So anyway, we'll also look at some more blocks, 4-block designs, and how we can take those similar designs and use more shafts and more blocks that have more design options. We'll do a little bit of a profile drafting exercise. We'll have a little graph paper time, and so we'll just do a simple idea of how to make a profile draft. How you can simply make a complete profile draft, threading, tie up, and treadling, and what that translates into as the design, and then how you might substitute in various weave structures.
So it sounds like there is so much that you're going to cover in this class. This is amazing, Jannie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Playing with Blocks, a 90-minute seminar. It's Saturday afternoon, July the 13th. This is just a handful of the classes that are going to be offered in at Convergence this summer. There'll be over 150 seminars and workshops, everything from 90-minute, you saw some of those today, 3 hours, 1, 2, and 3-day workshops. Great to mix and match. Take a workshop, take a couple of smaller classes. If you are going to take a workshop especially, you want to go ahead and sign up for the CVP, the Convergence Value Package, because you'll get a 25% discount. It's well worth it. And with that, you also get your fashion show and the keynote and a great looking bag. But be sure that you sign up for the CVP before you purchase your classes. We want to make sure you get your discount. If you are taking a class, you will have to have a membership. We look forward to seeing you in Wichita, Kansas. Registration's open. Jump in there, start signing up for the classes that you want. You can always add classes. So if you see something on these programs that you want to watch, jump in there and you can add it to your class. Remember, you can go back and watch any of these. They're recorded and you can go back and check out a class that you might be interested in. Thank you so much. And we will see you next week. We've got more sessions next week with different teachers, different classes.